It started with silence, not the peaceful kind you get on a quiet morning. This was the kind of silence that stings, the kind that fills the air after something breaks. A job lost, a relationship ended, a health scare, a moment that changes everything. Her career had collapsed after a failed business venture. Her closest friendships had grown distant, her confidence non-existent. Every morning she woke up feeling like a ghost in her own life. She didn't recognize herself anymore. For Olivia, that moment came like an unexpected storm. She whispered to herself, "This can't be it. This is not the life I'm meant to live." And in that moment, something shifted. Olivia sat down and wrote the hardest sentence of her life. "I am fully responsible for where I am and where I go next." That mindset wasn't meant to shame her. It was meant to free her. Because if she created this mess with her choices, she could create a new life with new ones. Painful, practical, and powerful. This is how she rebuilt her entire life in just 12 months. So she built new habits. Slowly and consistently. She didn't try to master everything at once. Just one small promise to herself each day. Read 10 pages, go for a walk, apply for one job, meditate for 5 minutes. Stack enough small wins, and momentum starts to build. Not overnight, not magically, but decisively. There were days when the fear crept back in. Days she questioned if any of it was working. Days she wanted to give up. Not for others, but for herself. The fog was beginning to lift. Her thoughts were less chaotic, her decisions more intentional. She felt in control again. On those days, she didn't reach for perfection. She reached for discipline. She reminded herself, consistency beats intensity. And for the first time in years, she made a budget. Not the kind you abandon after a week, but one that fit her actual reality. She canceled subscriptions she forgot she had, switched to cooking simple meals at home, sold items online, took up freelancing gigs on the side. It wasn't glamorous, but it was progress, and progress feels better than comfort when you commit to real change. No warning, no mercy, and no one coming to fix it for her. She joined a local gym with no mirrors, just iron and sweat and work. At first she could barely do a single push-up, but she kept showing up, 3 days a week, then 4. She tracked her lifts, celebrated her milestones, and soon discovered something unexpected. Physical strength builds emotional resilience. Every rep taught her a lesson. Use what you have. Keep showing up. 12 months ago, Olivia was stuck, broke, burned out, alone. But something clicked one evening as she stood in front of the bathroom mirror. Puffy eyes, messy hair, a numb stare. What followed was not a miracle, it was a method. It began with one rule: radical ownership. So, she cleaned, ruthlessly. She threw out what didn't serve her, sold what she didn't need, and redesigned her space for clarity and energy. Not for the sake of being a morning person, but to steal quiet hours for herself before the world could interrupt. Each morning began with a simple ritual: water, journaling, and 10 minutes of stretching. Just space to think, minimal decor, soft lighting, and a whiteboard on the wall with one bold question: what would the future version of me do today? No more blaming the past, no more waiting for someone to save her. The first thing she tackled was her environment. She looked around her apartment and realized it reflected her state of mind: cluttered, neglected, stagnant. She started waking up earlier. She didn't know what she wanted her life to become yet, but she knew she had to become someone capable of more. But let's be honest, change isn't a highlight reel. 3 months in, she noticed something strange. She started to smile again. At month 4, she began tackling her finances. This part was brutal. She opened every ignored email, faced every overdue bill, listed every debt. Month 5 brought her to fitness. Not to look good, but to feel alive. With her health and finances stabilizing, she turned to a social circle. This might have been the hardest part. Olivia had to admit some friendships were no longer serving her. Some conversations always ended in gossip or negativity. Some people only showed up when they needed something. So, she created boundaries. Not walls, boundaries. She communicated with kindness but clarity. And in the space that opened up, she began to attract people aligned with her growth. She joined meetups centered around creativity and personal development, started volunteering at a local community center, began meaningful conversations online that led to new friendships offline. Surrounding herself with people who inspired her didn't just lift her spirits, it reminded her of who she could become. By month 7, Olivia had built a life that looked nothing like the one she started with. But the transformation wasn't done yet. She began exploring purpose. Not the Instagram version, the real, messy search for meaning. What mattered to her? Life threw a curveball. Her father had a medical emergency. She flew home. The hospital visits were long, the emotions overwhelming. But she noticed something. She didn't crumble. She stayed grounded, asked better questions, managed her stress, supported her family. She was no longer the woman who broke under pressure. She didn't just survive the year, she transformed it. She rewrote her narrative. From victim to creator, from lost to aligned. She was the woman who led with grace under fire. Every piece of it was built with intention, discipline, and belief. You don't need to wait for permission. You don't need to have it all figured out. Because the version of you that's waiting on the other side of your fear That version is strong. That version is wise. That version is already inside you, waiting to be unleashed. You just need to decide that the life you've been surviving is no longer enough. And the best part, she's just getting started. Eventually, more people reached out. She wasn't chasing success. She was sharing value, and value finds its way. What kind of impact did she want to have? What legacy did she want to leave? It's about choosing growth over comfort, clarity over chaos, and action over avoidance. These questions guided her decision to enroll in an online course in psychology and coaching. She wanted to understand people, including herself. She started sharing her story anonymously on a blog, but she was making a difference. An income by being authentic and showing up with heart. To her surprise, readers connected deeply. Her pain became a bridge, her growth a guide. She acknowledged the mistakes, forgave the failures, and expressed gratitude for the resilience buried beneath the pain. She didn't hate who she had been. She honored that version for surviving long enough to create someone new. All it takes is a choice, a plan, a first step. 8 months in, she had her first coaching client. It wasn't planned. A former colleague reached out after reading her blog. They asked for advice. That conversation turned into a weekly call. By month 9, she launched a simple coaching service. One client became 3, then 5. She wasn't a millionaire. She wasn't viral. In month 10, she wrote a letter to her past self. It read like a farewell and a thank you. Month 11 tested her growth, and then came month 12. 1 year since that night in the mirror, Olivia stood in the same spot, looking at a different reflection. Clear eyes, confident posture, a face that had known struggle and emerged stronger. Today, Olivia's life isn't perfect, but it's hers. So if you're listening to this wondering if change is possible, let her story be the proof. Rebuilding your life isn't about dramatic gestures. It's about small, repeated decisions that align with your values. It's not easy, it never will be, but it's worth it. 12 months from now, your story could sound a lot like Olivia's, and a promise to never settle for a life that is less than what you're capable of creating. You can rebuild, and the time to begin is now.